And now may we invite questions from our students. Please, we have 4 mics here, which we have numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I see we already have a student on mic number 4. Please,
good evening.
Yes, introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Lee. Good evening, Prof. Kwok. My name is Tae Xiong Shing. I'm a final year student from the School of Biological Sciences. My question to you is regards to the growth of Asia and how Singapore is able to take full advantage of the growth of Asia to prosper in the next 50 years.
50 years is a very long time, and I'm not sure that the growth of Asia, China, and India can go on at the same pace for 50 years. I think they can go on at this pace 8, 9, 10, 11%, 12% in the case of China, for another 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 years. Then they develop all the symptoms of a middle-class economy and slow down, and growth rates begins to go down from 11, 10 to 5, 6, finally 3 or 2% as in Europe and America. So I wouldn't like to go and predict 50 years from now. I think it's safer to just say 10 years, 15 years.
You have said that you have actually encouraged us to learn Chinese Mandarin, mostly because we want to take advantage of the growing China or Chinese market. Is that actually a strategic move which you have planned long time ago, and to help us prepare for the future?
Well, when I introduced bilingualism, China was not on the rise. China was then a poor, underdeveloped country. I got Singapore to go for English as our first language because that connected us to the world, to modern sciences, commerce, and made Singapore what it is. Supposing we had made Chinese our working language, we wouldn't be here today. There wouldn't be this auditorium, you wouldn't be here. Even with the rise of China. What can China do for us? But the English language opened up the world to us and for us. And we are also open for business for them to come here. But I insisted on learning the mother tongue to maintain our sense of where we came from. The fact that you use English, and I use English, doesn't mean that I become an Englishman or an American. I think we must have our sense of self. And that sense of self gives you confidence in yourself and in the group you belong to. So it had nothing to do with the rise of China. I insisted on the mother tongue as a second language in order that you will have self-respect and self-identification. Now that China is on the rise, it's a bonus point.
May I thank you with a Chinese? 谢谢你，李光耀先生。
Could I ask the student up on the right to ask her question, please? Yes, mic number 3, please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Lee. I understand that for economic and demographic reasons, Singapore has allowed a high number of foreign immigrants within a short time period. So my question is, what can we do to promote a sense of belonging and foster social cohesiveness in the next decade? Thank you.
Could I first ask you to identify yourself, and could you tell us which nationality you come from?
I'm Singaporean and I'm a PhD student from the School of Biological Sciences.
Well, I have some bad news for you. Not because I disagree with you that we must have a sense of cohesiveness and we must assimilate the new migrants that were made into Singapore citizens and the permanent residents who hope to become Singapore citizens. My worry, looking at the demographics, is that we are fast aging as a population. The birth rate today, fertility rates, is 1.01. In other words, for every couple, you have 1.01 baby. So, instead of a population pyramid like that, you will have a diamond-shaped pyramid, inverted. Having said that, the Institute of Policy Studies have the grim statistics of 60,000 migrants a year to keep our economy young, or our people young and economically active. We can't digest that. 20,000 maybe, 25,000 at a stretch, but certainly not 60,000. So, in other words, we are going to become, because it's politically indigestible, otherwise, to take in these numbers, a shrinking and aging population like Japan. If you study the figures in Japan, you will find that they refuse to take any migrants because they want to keep Japan pure for the Japanese. Even Japanese, racially, from Brazil, came back to Japan, 700 of them, could not speak Japanese and were sent back to Brazil. The net result is a Japan which is stagnant, and a Japan that, despite several stimulus packages, is still in the doldrums. So even if we take 25,000 a year, which we can digest, we are heading in that direction. The answer is to have people have 1.8, then we can do with 20,000 immigrants. Or better still, 2.1, then we replace ourselves. But the trend in all developed countries is once you have women educated and doing jobs, the fertility rate goes to 1 because the cost is too high. A double income becomes a single income once you have a child, pregnancy, looking after the child, first few years of life. You have a second child, more loss of income. So this is a problem that's afflicting all European countries, all developed countries. Only America is the one developed country that's reproducing itself. And that's because we've got huge open spaces. And so the people have a sense of optimism and they produce a second child. Singapore is a pretty crowded place already. Home prices have gone up. People want to live near their parents, but the central areas are totally built up. So you've got to go to Sengkang or Pasir Ris, and they complain. It's far away from their parents, can't look after their grandchildren. But what's the answer? You've got to wait for the parents to die, then you rebuild under a CERS program, and you rebuild taller and higher. But that's a long, decades-long process. So my conclusion is to take in what is digestible and acceptable politically, which is about 20,000, at the most 25,000 a year. We are going to shrink and get old. How old are you now?
I'm 27 this year.
You are?
27.
Are you married?
No.
You are doing a PhD? You are doing a PhD?
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, when will you finish your PhD?
In another 2 years.
So you'll be 29. Have you got a boyfriend?
No.
Well, the childbearing years are about 35. After 35, the dangers of having a Mongol children, a Down syndrome, in other words, a dull person, rises. So my advice is, please don't waste time. It's more important and more satisfying than your PhD. But good luck to you. I hope you get your PhD and your boyfriend.